All right. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. This is the Justice Project Oversight and Planning Committee meeting. It is August 21st at 2:03 p.m. and I officially call the meeting to order.
Well, okay, there we go.
Before we begin, we acknowledge that we are gathered on the traditional and unceded territory of the Lummi, Nooksack, Samish, and Semiahmoo people who have cared for and tended this land since time immemorial. Truth and acknowledgement are critical to building mutual respect and connection across all barriers of heritage and difference. We begin this effort to acknowledge what has been buried by honoring the truth. We pay respect to their elders past and present. Please take a moment to consider the many legacies of violence, displacement, migration, and settlement that bring us together here today. And please join us in uncovering such truths at any and all public events.
Great. Thank you so much. All right, my name is Holly O'Neill, and I want to thank Hannah and Tasha, our co-chairs, for opening up the meeting just so peacefully. And here we are together. I'm so thrilled to see so many folks. This is great. And we're going to have a really excellent meeting today. So a couple of logistics. If you're joining by Zoom, you can keep your video on as much as possible, but I just want to say if you're here as a guest and you'd rather not have your video on, that is also totally fine. I think it will really help if we have everybody stay muted except when you're speaking. Remember, they're open public meetings. They'll be recorded, and the recording is put up on the county website. So whenever we're in the open discussion mode, raise your hand or use the raise hand button to be recognized to speak. And when using acronyms, please define what they mean. And anybody, if you hear an acronym and you don't know what it is, just shout out, could you say what that means? So we can all stay on the same page. Okay, thank you. Okay, so again, I'm Holly O'Neill. I'm your facilitator along with Marty Solomon, who's also taking notes, keeping the slideshow going. So we're going to start with a review of the Q2 2025 quarterly report. Do a quick update on the communications that Riley is working on. Look at the implementation of performance measurement plans. So Dean and Bertie will help us with that. Really exciting to get through that process and see where we're going next. And then the heart of our meeting is this question about frequent incarceration, which we know is an issue, and we're going to have panelists here today, and we're going to talk about it. We, the JPOP, we're going to be the listeners, and they're going to talk and share their thoughts on this question. And then after everyone has spoken, and they've had about an hour to do that, then we'll have time for the JPOP members to reflect on what they're hearing from that discussion. And then we'll close out with kind of next steps in our public comment. So any questions about the agenda? Okay. Wonderful. All right. So let's hear about it. Let's hear about quarterly progress reports.
I'll do this little part.
Thank you,
just, for the sake of folks who haven't heard this before, I'm just going to give a quick review of what these quarterly reports are. So every quarter, the executive's office gathers updates on the 15 implementation plan projects from all the different departments that are under their purview. And they write up a report and present it to the Incarceration Prevention and Reduction Task Force. Crossroads Consulting, which is Holly and me, we gather additional information as needed to update on projects, and we create a summary report that then goes on the Justice Project website that the IPRTF put together. And we focus on what's in process with the different projects and developments since the last quarter, and we don't project forward about what's going to happen, while the executive's office reports sometimes do do a little bit more projection, like here's what's coming up. And we're just trying to capture what happened over that last quarter of time. And so that quarterly report from that you all had a link to in your agenda was for the second quarter of the year. So that's April, May, June. And we did a little summary. And I think the main thing here is just to open it to you and see if there is anything that really jumped out at you this last quarter in the developments on the 15 projects, or perhaps you had some questions about what was going on, and we can try to find out more.
Great.
Tasha? Oh, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, Marty, do you want to take off the slide for a minute so we can see?
Yeah, sure.
And yeah, go ahead. You can go ahead and call on people, please.
Tasha, did you have something?
Yeah, I'm just reviewing the quarterly report and a couple things. The 86 assisted living, is that at the old Birchwood retirement home? And second question to that is that referrals from the hospital? I assume that's not just drop off. So those are referrals from the hospital or other treatment services?
So Riley's here from the executive's office. Hannah's here. If anybody knows the answers to those questions, speak up, because I do not. No.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I can find out.
Thanks, Riley. That's great. All right. Anything? I found that number of 86 new beds really exciting, and that's what caught my eye. I put together the summary report, and so those three key findings are the things that really jumped out at me, and that one excited me. So yes, I would like to know more about that too, Tasha. We'll find out from Riley, and we can share back. Hannah Fisk.
I believe.
Ooh, you're very far away, Hannah.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I just came off of Teams and nothing seems to work well when I change systems. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. I believe those new beds are Lake Wacom Treatment Center, and I mean they would be the best expert here. Is that they are redoing that, and then they're gonna move their Agabates facility people down there, and then we'll take that and then we'll increase more beds for those residents who are eligible there now, and then they're gonna repurpose that for a different need. So it is really exciting. I don't think all 86 are going to be new, since they're going to transfer some of those beds, but the ultimate benefit will be more beds for individuals in our community, just depending on what they do with that Agabate and their target. Does that make sense?
Thank you. Thank you for adding that information. Tasha, did you want to ask something else?
Yeah, just continuing through, and number 13 for the court system, has there been any update? I don't really specifically see the court hearing about the public defenders can only have so many caseloads, and it might be too early in the quarterly report, but I know that has now passed, and so they're going to be limiting caseloads. So
yeah, and so that is the one project that is not really under the executive's office purview. The courts are their own thing, and we didn't receive any particular update this quarter, but we'll specifically ask for an update for the next quarter. Actually, I shouldn't say that. Things are going to change, but we'll work with the executive's office to try to help get project updates for the courts for the next quarter to hear what's happening. And Riley's going to be talking next to tell you about what's going to change. So
or if anybody in the room here has an update they'd like to share. Okay. Great. Anything else?
Okay, not from me. Um,
Well, there's
Dan.
Dan.
Oh, Dan.
Hey, sorry, I'm a little bit slow on the draw here. I wanted to address number 14, expedite access to competency restoration services, and I'm just wondering if someone can speak to the True Blood money and the decision, and just how that's A, and then B, just broadly speaking, rather, just how those restoration services are being performed at the state level and the timing on getting people moved through the system so they can face their charges.
Excellent questions. And does anybody want to speak to that? Okay, well, we have good things to follow up on with the next at our next meeting. Tasha?
Can I just add to the Dan's question a little bit? Like it said it has decreased or it's gone faster. Is there something specific that happened that has caused that? Are there less people? Like, I guess, what caused the lower number?
COVID, post-COVID, was a factor in that. Court systems were able to move through people a little bit faster, but I think there were multiple other contributing factors. I mean, the DSHS was getting sued every day, and so I think that motivated them to find a pathway through. And apparently, Hannah knows more than I do about this. So.
I'm in agreement with you, Dan. I think, right, the lawsuit, the True Blood lawsuit, really brought forth more efficiencies in the system. And
It's super hard to hear you, Hannah. Is your mic, do you have a?
I will figure this out at some point during this session. I will figure out how to change it. Getting closer to my mic. Is this better at all?
Barely, maybe yell a little bit.
Is this any better? Or is
Yeah.
it better? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I'm not sure with Dan, if I have much more to add, but yeah, the True Blood lawsuit did bring forth a lot more efficiencies and kind of stalled, although some more lawsuit cases have come forth since its origination. Dan, when you were talking about True Blood, are you talking about dollars funneled through to the county, or were you just talking more about the lawsuit itself and as it relates to the evaluations?
I was kind of speaking towards the money that goes towards housing. It's a limited pool of people that we're talking about, so it's not every person that's going to receive competency restoration. It's more about people that are involved in this. I think it was a class action lawsuit, so it's very finite, and that number will eventually just go away, through attrition and such. So.
Yeah, so where it stands right now is we did, about a year ago, June 2024, we did put in to get True Blood dollars. We were granted and went through almost the whole process kind of, and then it fell apart at the end of 24, early 25. And we just recently reconnected with them to see if we could pick up where we left off, because our partnerships came back in line and funding, they like to be the last dollars in, and so we had to kind of secure other things first. So right now the ball's in their court, but it seemed promising. They came out and did a tour just a few weeks ago and met with us, so I can definitely try to get back and see how that goes, but that would increase housing capacity for True Blood class members in our community, which is a very targeted folks, but hopefully those services will help them.
Right, Hannah, you had a thought?
Yeah, I think it'd be great if we had some sort of data on how much the wait time has decreased and when that decrease maybe happened. I know I have some ability to pull some data on that, but I wonder if like the public defenders or the court system or even the jail had a way to pull that data a little bit easier to see from when a competency evaluation was ordered to actually getting the evaluation completed, what that wait time was, and then from the evaluation being completed to going to restoration, what that time was decreased to, because it's supposed to be, I think, 14 days for one of them. And then also upon people's restoration, returning from restoration, how long does it take for them to get back into the courtroom to resolve their case? I know sometimes it's really quick turnaround and sometimes cases are just dismissed instead of because people are not restorable. So would wonder, you know, some hard data on that would be great.
Mhm.
Excellent. All right. Oh, Amber.
I actually just had a question in regards to 11. I just see it says 3 new dedicated reentry staff have been put into place. And I was just kind of curious about the interagency meetings that are going on, if there would be a way to get some more information about it. You know, working for a local provider, I haven't got any context on this. And so would love, you know, if I haven't heard about it, maybe other people haven't, other agencies as well. So any more information on that would be great.
Excellent.
I know there are multiple multi-agency meetings happening, and the health department has been the convener for many of those. And so I think we should connect with Hannah Fisk on that.
She just raised her hand too.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna.
I saw Dan's hand go up first.
Well, so let's have Dan next and then Hannah, and then we're gonna need to move on.
Okay, I'll be brief. I know we've got a lot of ground to cover today. Number 5 is improve coordination between organizations, and hold on one second. And then the housing piece. So I just was at Lummi Nation yesterday for a dedication ceremony for the 40 new pallet shelter homes that they put in. They're a shelter situation that it's not housing, but they have pretty much everything that they need there, including food and access to hygiene and such. I just want to make sure that that's on our radar. And there was a transportation, I forget what number it is. I'm not looking at it right now. Getting people to access those services is something that we should just make sure, I think, in my opinion, that they're able to, you know, get back and forth to those kinds of shelters solutions. And then there's the 2 mobile medical units from the Swinomish tribe from Dijwalik. One of them will be at the Baptist church downtown, and one is currently at 2030 Division Street, which is the work center. So just making sure people can get to those resources. That's for treatment. That's methadone and Suboxone treatment.
Thanks, Dan.
Okay, so just go ahead and move on. Well, there were several questions that were asked, so we'll do our best to bring that information back. That was excellent. I feel like we're really getting that flow of, you know, like what happened? Are we tracking it and sharing information? So yeah, excellent. Let's move on then to the next step, which is an update from Riley.
Hello,
Riley.
everyone. Hello, everyone. Riley Sweeney, County Executive's Office. I wanted to highlight 2 things, one of which is I love the quarterly report, but it's going away. We're replacing it with a monthly newsletter, email newsletter that is going out to all y'all and over 1,000 other residents in Whatcom County who have all given us an email at some point in the last 10 years associated with the jail planning process. I've scraped every single list and community group and dumped them all into a giant email list. So that will start here very shortly with our first bit of news, which is we're signing the design build contractor, the architect and constructor of our new jail facility. So they are just doing the signing on the dotted line. And once I get the official thumbs up, we will launch the newsletter with that big juicy piece of news. And then it'll go out monthly after that, talking about all the good work that we're doing, not just on the jail facility, but at the Justice Project as a whole.
Riley,
Yes.
How can people sign up for that monthly newsletter?
Why, thank you, Segue Marty. You can do that by going to our brand new Justice Project website, which, of course, I was going to drop in the chat, but we got the chat turned off. If you go to the Whatcom County website and go to the County Executives page, you will find the Justice Project page, kind of front and center. It's one of the options on the left. And it has a big old button that says sign up for monthly updates. It's also got a progress tracker where you can see what's happened and what's going to happen, and frequently asked questions that answers such things as like, who's in charge? How much money has been collected? Why did you choose the LaBounty site? How much will the new jail cost? How big is it going to be? How many people will be incarcerated? All those exciting questions that we all chew on far too often are all on our frequently asked questions. So we got the website, we've got the newsletter, and we're excited to ramp up our engagement with the community as this project reaches a fever pitch.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Riley. So it's going to be so great to see the newsletter.
I'm
We'll
excited.
still get a chance to talk about it, but yeah, it's going to be
And
terrific.
I would be remiss if I didn't mention one more really big opportunity for people to talk about the Justice Project, which is the county government open house that's happening September 3rd in the county courthouse from 6 p.m. to 7:30. We have representatives from almost every department in Whatcom County government. We're all going to be in the first floor of the courthouse, and you can track down our own Deputy Executive Kayla under a giant banner that will say, "Ask me about the Justice Project." She's very excited to stand under that banner. And so it'll be an opportunity for people to talk about this face to face, neighbor to neighbor, which we always like supporting.
Right. Say the date and time one more time for us,
It
Riley.
is Wednesday, September 3rd at 6 p.m. in the county courthouse.
Awesome. Great. Okay, anything else?
That's all I got.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay. So,
Tasha?
yeah.
Tasha,
ahead,
did you
Tasha.
have a question about that?
Yeah, I was just wondering if Riley can put out like a social media event, like I'm interested kind of thing. Then it pops. Then I get the reminders through on my calendar or something. Just otherwise, I might forget about it. I don't know if you do that on social media. That'd be great.
For the open house, we've been plugging it relentlessly for the last 3 weeks, and there's a video going live this afternoon with various elected officials inviting people. So, but yes, there's an event. You should be able to find it. County Government Open House. Should be good.
Great. Okay. All right, ready? Let's go to the slide. We're on the implementation of the Justice Project Performance Measurement Plan. So we have Dean, yes, and Bertie. Guys ready?
Yeah, I wanted to check with Bertie whether she wants to kick us off. Is she there?
Well, she's here, but Bertie, I see you're muted and you have and your video's off. So
Okay, I guess
there
now
we
I am.
go.
Sorry, I was restricted.
Oh,
So that's perfectly fine. I will not take it personally. So I'd be happy to kick us off. I think that what you all, I'm sure, are very familiar with the Village Reach consultation we had, and Julia, I know, has presented to JPOP in the past. So they have completed their measurement plan and their consultation and finalized it in a written document that has been turned into the executive committee. It has been presented to the Incarceration Prevention and Reduction Task Force as a whole. And at our most recent meeting, the IPRTF moved to endorse their plan and send it on to the executive and the county council with strong encouragement to implement and find financing for it. And so that's where we stand. We have a separate, smaller data work group that is a subcommittee of two other committees, Behavioral Health and Legal and Justice, which is also working on ways that we can facilitate and encourage its implementation. So Dean is going to do a quick overview summary, and then we are both available to answer questions and talk about what we think are some of the important next steps.
Okay, what you have on the screen in front of you is kind of a framework that was created by Village Reach to try to put all of the various pieces of work on a single screen. And I don't expect anybody to ruin their eyesight trying to zoom in and read the detail of this, but just to orient you overall, on the left side, you'll recognize there are 5 strategies that were the way in which the Justice Project implementation plan was organized. And within each of those 5, the second column reflects the 3 particular projects that related to the overall strategy. And then on the right, Village Reach has summarized material, I think, particularly from out of the appendices to the Justice Project implementation plan, talking about what are our overall systems goals and service goals and facility goals. And then down at the bottom, there's just an acknowledgement that ultimately we're concerned about what's the impact of all of these efforts we're making on the overall health and safety of the community. Next slide. And this overlay of that framework illustrates that there are different approaches to evaluation here. The strategies and the projects that are under that blue frame really are most amenable to what is referred to as process evaluation. Are we doing the things that we said we would do in the implementation plan? And how do we know that we're accomplishing them as we had proposed? The next side, over the outcome evaluation side, really is looking at, okay, if we've done those things, then are we accomplishing those systems and service and facility goals that we hoped these efforts would ultimately have results for? And in the right-hand part of that, there were 4 particular overarching measures that were proposed by Village Reach, looking at jail bookings as a measure, lengths of stay in the jail, connections to service post-incarceration, and then recidivism rates. And then so Marty or Holly, has everyone on the JPOP received the more detailed written report and the accompanying workbook table? So they have access to those documents that Village Reach produced, I assume.
I believe so.
Okay. So I'd encourage.
If you haven't, let us know.
Yeah. And I'd encourage you all, when you have an opportunity, to dig into some of the details. Some of the definitions of these measures are outlined in those documents, both the actual written plan and then the workbook table that goes into some of the detail about the way to define various measures. Finally, in the lower right-hand corner, we're interested certainly in whether all these things that we do, if they have the outcomes that we had hoped for with respect to the particular people being affected by these efforts, does it have an overall impact in the community? And the measures there really are more population level measures that we derive from a variety of sources, potentially, that the state produces to some extent, and that we can use as making some inference that what we've done has in fact improved the lives of the community in general. Next slide.
Sorry.
And so I think the way that Village Reach progressed on this was to first of all focus on, well, what are the goals and outcomes? And then based on that, say, what are the particular measures that will tell us whether or not these goals and outcomes have been achieved? And then finally, what are the data elements that we have to have access to that somebody is collecting somewhere that are used to compute the measure? And I just point that out because I think, we had some challenges over the last several years in starting with, gee, what data do we have? And then can we come up with some kind of a measure that we think might be interesting and reasonable? And I think we're trying, in this effort, we were asking them to start at the broader level and then burrow down into what data are needed to do that kind of measurement and evaluation. One final part of the documents that you'll see is an assessment of the extent to which those data are available for us to be able to compute the measures. And so there's a table that assesses the various information systems being used by different parts of our overall system and the extent to which they are either at least available as data elements, and then to what extent there is an ability to share them across systems in order to compute information or data or measures that are accessible to both decision makers and the broader community. Next slide.
Hey, Dean, I'm just going to suggest you've got just about 2 minutes left out of your. And
that's all I'll use.
Everybody, if you have questions, if you could just type them in the email and send them over to Marty, and then we can always do a follow-up on this because this is really awesome.
Okay. So let me just quickly point out the next two slides are two sets of 4 recommendations from Village Reach. The first 4 related to near term somehow in the next 6 to 12 months, and the second 4 really looking more long term at priorities for our attention as a community. And I just want to point out the first one. Bertie made reference to action taken by the IPRTF and basically endorsing the report and these 8 recommendations. The data work group went further to try to flesh out what is meant by that first recommendation, which is to designate a dedicated role to operationalize this whole plan. And there's continuing discussion with the IPRTF about how do we actually implement that recommendation in terms of both funding and budget and the nature of the role that would be necessary to move this plan forward. And I'll stop with that. The next slide you can just show is for the 12 to 36 month second set of priorities or recommendations.
Great. Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for the update. And we definitely want to come back to this, I think, at a future meeting. Okay, we're going to do a little transition now. So we're going to have a panel discussion. We haven't done this before in the JPOP. And so we have guests here to talk about their experience, but I'd like to take down the screen for one moment because as I was thinking about this, it seemed like we should at least all, say who we are, and then the panelists will be able to introduce themselves in more depth. So what I'd like to do is I'm going to get ready to unmute yourself, or everybody but Tasha can unmute themselves now. And I'm going to just call your name, and you're just going to say your name and what organization you're from, or if you're on the panel, you say your name and just say, I'm on the panel. Okay? So Tasha, you're first.
Tasha Thompson, Linden Police Department Detective and co-chair of the JPOP.
Thanks. Bertie?
Thank you. I'm Bertie Safford, a member of the IPRTF and involved with the index committee and the data work group and focusing on how we get all this data.
Thank you. Marty?
I'm Marty Solomon, and Holly and I work together to co-facilitate the JPOP.
Thanks. Riley?
Riley Sweeney with the Whatcom County Executive's Office, Policy and Communications.
Good. Dean?
I'm Dean White. I'm a part-time special projects manager within the Health and Community Services Department.
Wonderful. Hannah?
Hannah Sloan. I am another co-chair for the JPOP committee. I'm a behavioral health provider currently with Lifeline Connections, and we oversee the behavioral health services at the jail and juvenile detention.
Is anybody in the conference room? Okay, so just to keep this tight, just your name and your organization, even though we'd love to hear more about you. Or if you're on the panel, just say that because you're going to get a longer time to introduce yourself. So, Galen.
I'm Galen Rizamenti. I'm with the Statewide Reentry Council.
Thank you. Rob.
Rob Sullivan, Pioneer Human Services.
Thank you. I can't read PAN. Who is this? Pamela. God, I couldn't even see it. Pamela.
Pamela, you're muted, and I was muted when I said your name also.
Pamela Kahn at Pioneer Human Services Supportive Housing.
Hey, Mike.
Oh, I'm Mike Stone, and apparently I'm on the panel.
Awesome. Kara?
Kara Allen, panel member.
Wonderful. Amber?
Amber Rucker, SUDP at CCS.
Perfect. Jade?
Jade Worthen, panel.
Wonderful. Rosa?
Rosa, I'm a task force member.
Dan?
Dan Hamill, Bellingham City Council.
Great. Hannah? Fisk?
Whatcom County Health and Community Services.
Thanks. Stark?
Stark Follis, I'm the director of the Whatcom County Public Defender's Office.
Beautiful. Jason?
Jason Corneliuson, City of Bellingham, specifically Maryland's office.
Thank you. Barry?
Perry Buchanan, Whatcom County Council.
Thank you. Cesar?
I'm Cesar Luna. On the panel, but I'm also with Clean Cut Futures nonprofit.
Thank you. Denise?
Denise Richter, District Court Probation.
Thank you. Stephen?
Exactly, no organizational affiliation involved in justice project planning.
Thank you. Leonardo?
Yeah, hi, I'm Leo. I'm a data analysis for Whatcom Racial Equity Commission.
Great. Linda?
I'm a panelist.
Wonderful. Chao Ying?
I'm with Chuck and Health Foundation. I'm a commissioner for the REC, and I'm on the Behavioral Health Committee.
Thank you. Kelsey?
Kelsey Schaefer Peranto with Whatcom County Health and Community Services, not a panel member.
Thanks. Eric? Mr. Ritchie? I stepped away. Okay, I'm going to come back to you, Eric. Andrew?
Andrew Mitchell with Bellingham Municipal Court.
Thank you. Annie?
Annie Todd with Cascadia Daily News. I'm just a reporter.
Just a reporter. That's an important role. Okay. And who's here from the Whatcom County Sheriff's Department?
Good afternoon. This is Sheriff Tanksville.
Oh, hi. Wonderful. Glad you're here. Eric, are you still there? Okay. From the public defenders, yeah? Okay, that is wonderful. Thank you. This is such a great group of people who care about these issues and care about the Justice Project and are bringing such incredible depth of experience. And I'm so delighted that we're going to shift gears now and have a conversation with our panelists. So I'm going to turn it over to Hannah Sloan, our co-chair, and she's going to facilitate the session. So Marty, maybe pop the screen back up for a minute and we'll get started.
Thank you all for joining us today. We're very happy to have several individuals join us to discuss their experiences with incarceration and the impact that frequent or recurrent incarceration has on individuals and their families. I just want to remind everyone this is a time for discussion amongst the panel only, and afterwards we will have time for the JPOP committee members and others to reflect back. So please take this time to just listen and learn from our panel members. And for the panel members, you have already shared your names, but if you would like to take your name down or turn your video off, you're more than welcome to. Please do whatever is most comfortable for you. We're just happy to have you in this space sharing your experiences with us. So we'll take a couple about this, but we're going to just start with introductions. So for those of you on the panel, please share a little about your experience of incarceration. When was the last time you or your family member or both were incarcerated, and what has helped you or your family to stay out of jail? We'll go kind of one by one, take a couple 2 to 3 minutes each, and then we'll hop on to the next question. Let's see. Let's go. If you're on the panel and you want to raise your hand, feel free to do so if you want to start first, or I can just call on people.
Hannah, maybe just call on people and
Okay, perfect.
they could just pass, and that way it'll make it easier.
Looks like Caesar is ready to roll.
Hey, Caesar.
Hi, so yeah, Caesar Luna here. Last time I was in jail was probably in, I'm gonna say like 2002, something like that. I've probably been to jail probably about 5 or 6 times between here and California. They weren't very long stays, but at the end of the day, still ended up in there. But yeah, the biggest thing that, kind of helped me stay out of jail is the simple fact of like, having your family support and also a reason to stay out of jail. I had a kid, and so that's the last thing that I wanted to do is continue my my cycle, and then him not have a dad and all that kind of stuff. I didn't want any of that. So that, and having supportive parents and friends and family that want to do what's best for me was probably the biggest thing that that has kept myself out of jail.
Well, thank you for sharing. We'll go on to Kara.
Hi, my name is Kara Allen. Thank you for having me here. The last time I was incarcerated in jail was in 2016. All my jail is reflective for my addiction and the choices that I made while I was in active addiction. Sorry, I'm like looking at the questions at the same time. What has helped me to stay out of jail was getting clean and changing my life. I have 9.5 years clean and sober now, and and my life has changed dramatically from how it was when I was using drugs and alcohol. Basically, I feel like when I share my story on panels that I was very fortunate to get the opportunity to go to treatment instead of prison in 2016, and I had set up, I had clean and sober living. So when I got out of treatment, I had housing, and I was able to start building my life back together and a foundation that was based on my recovery. And so that played a big part for me. I feel like in being able to sustain my recovery and continue to focus on it. And it's just gotten better, better now. And I am currently, I didn't say what organization I'm from, but I am with the Lighthouse Mission, and I'm the director of the Women and Children's Recovery program here. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing. Mike?
Oh, okay. I guess I'm on here because our youngest son, Brian, he's mentally ill. He's got schizophrenia. He's been in and out of jail and prisons for 20 years now. Rarely does he stay out for more than a year. He doesn't seek treatment. He doesn't want treatment. He wants to, right now, he's really into smoking crack. And so he's currently in the Whatcom County Jail. on multiple charges, and he hasn't been arraigned yet, so I don't know how long he may be in there, but I think he'll be in there for a little while. And at this point, he hasn't said he wants any help. He doesn't want to go to drug court. He wants to just do his 9 months and get out and then be free to do what he wants, which is to smoke crack. So I don't know. I mean, I can't really, I guess they have to want help. I can't get into his head and make him want help. And the one thing he does need is an objective or something to fill up his time when he's not in jail that's constructive. And the last year when he got out of Monroe, he was talking about, you know, becoming an electrician or going to BCT. And it was just mainly, he never took action on anything. And so then he'd go off and live in the woods and he'd meet new friends and get in a lot of trouble. It's a little frustrating because it seems to be never ending. I was kind of hoping at some point he'd get concerned enough about his own life and his future that he would want to take some steps to do something about it. It seems like you have a lot of really great programs here, but until someone wants to enter them, it's not really going to have much of an effect on them. So that's about all I've got to say right now. Thanks.
Thank you, Mike. Linda, do you want to share as well?
Yeah, I mean, I saw your list of programs and it was really encouraging. The problem is right now, last time I asked him, I said, what do you want to do when you get out? He said, well, nobody's going to hire me. Nobody's ever going to rent a place to me. So I just want to go back to using meth and live in my car, which really broke my heart. And he's been in and out of jail at least 20 times in 4 different states. When he was in Texas, they moved him out of the criminal court system and put him into the mental health court system. And I was given a phone call. They were going to put him on probation if I was willing to pay for him to live in an adult family home. His SSI wouldn't pay for it, but they would suspend it. And some of it was good, some of it was bad. He was out of the 3 years. They released him after a year and a half. Harris County is, you know, it's a huge metropolitan area, but they have behavioral health centers all over town, so they're easily accessible. So it was mandatory that he had to see a psychiatrist every month. He was in the adult home with other men. He was given his meds. It was mandatory by the court that he had to take his meds. He had to report to the court. I think once a month he had to go to court. And in the daytime, they took them by van to a daycare center because there were several of these adult homes that were privately operated around town. And then he was given free time a couple hours a day. So some of it was not so good, like the family home person took his food stamps and used them, which she was supposed to do. One of the monitors and managers punched him in the ear and it ruptured his eardrum and he lost his hearing. Then he came home because he had an outstanding warrant in Skagit County. So he came home for a couple months. He was good. And then he turned himself in to Skagit, where they don't have a mental health court system. And they sentenced him for a year in prison. So they sent him to Shelton and then Walla Walla, and he ended up in Monroe. And because he hears voices and he's so paranoid, they had to keep him in solitary. So by the time he got out, he was way worse than when he went in. And then they released him in the RICS program as a danger to himself and others, which I was thankful for, that they would pay his rent. But the only housing they could find for him was a motel up in Blaine. And then he began using meth. And when he was released, they gave him a shot. That lasted for 3 weeks, and 2 weeks later, he was arrested. So, you know, in a year's time, he's been out now for a year. He's been arrested 3 times. And I I've heard several people mention about getting those shots. Well, the shots, they wear out. They're supposed to last a month, but they wear out after 3 weeks. And I know years ago when I was taking him to get those shots, they were $2,000 a piece. So they're, I can't imagine that they're cost effective for the state. So anyway, he's going to be getting out now in the middle of the winter. I'm not going to let him stay with us. I just can't. We have a granddaughter, and we tried to help him out when he got kicked out of his clean and sober house this year. We tried to help him out, and you know, when he was on his meds and he was clean, he was a reasonable, caring, compassionate person. And I hadn't seen him in a long time, you know, seeing the real him. So I was really encouraged, but that only lasted about 2 weeks, and then he was gone. So during the time he was here, I called 911 several times. I was really thankful to learn about the ART team, but of course, you know, they weren't always available, and they weren't here, you know, like when he was yelling at traffic in the street or walking up and down the street swinging a lead pipe, things like that, or threatening me. So what I would, and he refused to go into the mental health court. It was offered to him, but he refused to do it. So like Mike, I agree, you know, I could get him on SSI, I could get him insurance, I could get him food stamps, but I could not get him anything to do, you know. So, and now he's so far gone, and he still is not taking any meds, even in jail. I don't know if they've ever done a mental health evaluation for him yet. So he just seems like he's completely lost touch with reality now. He's so paranoid. He thinks that the jail is stealing his phone money, and he's just really gone. So, and when he gets out, the only housing that he might be able to get into is clean and sober. There's nothing else available for him. So anyway, that's all I have to say, I guess. It's not a happy picture.
Thank you, Linda, for sharing all of that. And sounds like there have been some things that are helpful and some things that are missing, and we'll be able
There's a lot that's missing.
yeah, that'll be our next question. Jade, can you please?
Hi, I'm Jade Worthen. My last incarceration was June of 2023. I have 2 years clean, and I'm currently working out a case from 2022 because the court system was so slow. And I just want to say that because it's like I potentially might have to go back to jail for 45 days at 2 years clean because the court is and my prosecutor and all that are taking their sweet time, and it's a horrible thing for an addict who's getting back on their feet to have to go through something like that. I have 4 kids, a girlfriend, and beautiful home, and that's one of my biggest struggles today with me being clean, right? And I'm very involved with Narcotics Anonymous. They saved my life over there. I first got incarcerated at 18. I've been to prison 3 times. I've been to Whatcom County Jail probably 100 times. And one thing that I can say is that I've never been offered any kind of programming. I wish that there was recovery court offered to me when I was younger. Maybe if I was 18 and I would have been offered recovery court, and I could have been introduced to Narcotics Anonymous, I could have gotten a grasp on my addiction a lot sooner. And I 12 felonies and like 200 misdemeanors. And I've had clean time in between here and there, and I've never gotten even a speeding ticket while I've been clean. So that shows that I'm not a person that's out there intentionally breaking the law. All of my legal problems stem from my addiction. And so I believe it's very important to be putting funding into these types of programs. You know, I could sit here and probably talk about this for a long time, but I know that's not my place. But I do want to just say thank you guys for asking me to be here. And I do want to say to Linda and Mike, just hang in there. And I know it's hard. That's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Marty and Holly, do you see anybody else that has joined us for the panel?
I have not.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you all again. We'll move on to our next question. Again, 2 to 3 minutes each to share your thoughts on this. What gaps in the criminal legal system and or the social diversion services or the ways that those systems currently operate do you believe contribute to individuals being repeatedly incarcerated? So what do you think has brought you frequently back to incarceration or your loved one? What gaps were there that made that happen? We'll start with Caesar again.
So as far as like the gaps for, I mean, for me back in the day, of course I didn't want to continue to go to jail. So I just did what I had to do to get back into it. My biggest thing is, so running my nonprofit at Clean Cut Futures, what it is I go into the jail and I provide free haircuts to the inmates. And then not only that, I try and talk to them and try and, you know, kind of steer them in the right direction or change their perspective is the biggest thing. And so my biggest thing is that I see is a lot of them are complaining about the length of time it takes for their lawyers to get a hold of the judges or the court, get into the court system and then get their stuff, looked at. I mean, I get guys who tell me all the time, man, it's been months since I've talked to my lawyer. So right now, the biggest hurdle is probably there's not enough, legal representation to be able to get, stuff settled and to worked out. And then of course, everybody wants either a deal or try and get as little time as possible. The other thing is that when guys are the other part of it, and this part I did experience quite a bit. So I was on 2 years of pretrial monitoring, and then I went to 5 years of having a probation officer. So I was on probation for 7 straight years of having this dark cloud looming over my head that, hey, if you got in trouble, I was looking at 2 years in prison. And so I did not, I mean, yeah, you try and stay clean, but the other half of it is it makes you feel like they are looking for any small reason to throw you in jail, that your life is just easily tossed away because there's no consequence to anybody who makes that decision of right, there's that immunity of if there's a misrepresentation in the case, if there's a probation officer for whatever reason doesn't like you or anything like that, they could throw you in jail and they get to go home, go to sleep, and not even think about you. But you're the one who has to deal with these consequences of other people that not necessarily is your own, let alone if you are in active addiction. Because mine was alcohol. If alcohol showed up, I was in trouble. It didn't matter. But this coming year, I have 16 years clean. And so, I had to learn my lesson the hard way. But I mean, there's all these different people that you listen to what they're talking about of, the drugs and I know because I talk to these guys every week that I go in there and cut hair at the jail. And jail today is very different than jail when I went back in pre-2005. Because and I don't want to diminish what anybody has gone through or any of the illegal activities that they've done, but I know that a large amount of the people that are in jail today would not be in jail if it was not for some sort of drug abuse. Because when I went to jail, again, I'm not trying to diminish anything, but they were criminals that went to jail. I mean, yes, you'd have, you know, some of your drug addicts here and there, but the large majority today are actual drug addicts who are doing, you know, things to feed their addiction, whether it's stealing or, you know, causing havoc or whatever. If you take all that away, if you take the drugs away, they're normal people in the community, just like you and me, no problems. But that is the issue that we now have to deal with. And the biggest thing that I believe that is another thing that I don't know that anybody really looks at. And I just learned this perspective from another individual who me and him were talking about this, is one of the hardest things is, you know, you have to look at an addict's just their 24 hours of what they deal with. It's something that we watch in a movie as entertainment. You have to think about that when they wake up, first thing, they are at the lowest point in their life because they are now withdrawn from whatever drugs. It doesn't matter, alcohol, drugs, whatever. They're at their lowest point. So then they have to get up and then they have to start thinking, okay, now I have to go make money, do something in order to feed this addiction. So now that they have a goal for the day, and then they take off, they leave their tent, car, wherever, house, doesn't matter, they leave. And then they have some sort of adversity, whether it's with somebody else, whether it's somebody in the public, whether it's whatever. So then they start dealing. So they're on this like little mission that they're now going throughout the day. And then, you know, whatever happens throughout that day, it can be emotional, right? High, low, whatever, altercation, doesn't matter, stealing, adrenaline rush. It's all of it. Like then they score. Then their dopamine jumps super high. And then they're feeling good for however long that is. And then they start moving along throughout the day. And then they have to go find some food and then go find a place to rest. And then, you know, get back to, you know, maybe they get into another altercation with somebody or some sort of thing and whatever. Like these are the roller coasters throughout a 24-hour period. And that's something that we watch like on TV as entertainment, and yet these people live it day to day, and we expect them to live a normal life like me and you and go to work every single day and just be okay with, you know, this, I don't want to call it monotony, but just like an everyday normal life, that concept makes zero sense to these kind of people. And so now it's trying to explain to them that, hey, there is comfort and enjoyment in just the safety of not having to do all of that throughout a day. But yet I mean, why would you? Why would you? That's like one of the hardest things to do. When I quit drinking, my biggest problem was that I had basically cabin fever, because when I go out drinking, I could have a great night, I could have a bad night. That either means that I had a great time with some friends or I got in a fight. It didn't matter. So when I quit drinking, I just had this like anxiety inside me that like, why is life so boring now? Why is it boring? But then after enough time, you realize boredom is peace, and you have to be okay with peace, and trying to get to that aspect of it is the hardest thing. So when these people are going through you know, probation and all that, the biggest thing is like, how do we make people feel good about themselves? Well, the biggest thing is like, if we can give them a skill, give them a job, that way that they are, you know, being a productive part of society. And not only that, they're being a productive member to themselves, let alone their family, that they're providing. And when you are able to provide for yourself, you have self-pride and all of that. That's where the biggest change starts, is getting this self-pride and making yourself feel good, which is what I try and do through a simple haircut. And let alone they're still in jail, but it makes a huge impact. There's so many studies that just your small appearance changes can boost your, you know, boost yourself. And so that to me is where we are lacking. Not only do we not have enough, you know, I'm going to say legal representation or enough court dates or whatnot to handle what we have here in Whatcom County. Because at the end of the day, Whatcom County is growing. That's why we need a bigger jail. We need more beds. I mean, right now there's a lot of crimes that happen that they get a ticket and they don't go to jail. So it doesn't feel real when you just get a ticket and say, hey, you got to show up to court. So there's no consequences for your actions. At the end of the day, you know, people need to be held accountable. That's the only way that we're going to have a well-functioning society. And I'm the first one to be there because I had to be held accountable for my actions of being a menace to society. And I jumped through the hoops. I did everything that I was supposed to do. At the end of my deferred prosecution, I was told by, I can't remember if it was Judge Urick or Judge Elich, one of the two, but they literally told me I was like one of 7 guys that has ever finished their deferred prosecution, which is going through all the AAs, going through all the meetings, intensive outpatient, paying all my fines, paying my restitution, and going through whatever it is that I needed to go through. And I was able to say that I did it and I was done, and all of my charges got dismissed. But it's not an easy answer. At the end of the day, it's how can we support some of these individuals? And the number one thing is we have to remember drugs are the solution to their problem. It's not actually, you know, the issue. So it's some trauma that they're trying to deal with, and the drugs are the solution. So how do we get them to deal with the trauma? That way the drugs are no longer the solution. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Caesar, for sharing that. Kara, do you have more to add?
Nope, he pretty much nailed it. Just kidding, but Caesar that was great. I have a list of things. It's a really good question. And I think that there's a lot of things that we're lacking. The biggest one for me is housing. Employment and housing are two huge things when somebody gets out of jail. Like I said, I felt very fortunate that I had clean and sober housing to go to. But I had been in and out of the system so many times and for so many years, and also in and out of AA and NA, that I had a pretty solid support group even when I was getting loaded. And so housing like played a big part in me not getting out of jail or treatment and being homeless and not having anywhere to go. Because I can guarantee if I didn't have anywhere to go, I wouldn't have stayed clean. I would have had no reason to. And the housing in Whatcom County is so sparse and just unaffordable for most people, let alone somebody that has very little resources or the funds to be able to pay for housing. And then another one is long-term treatment options. Obviously I'm a big advocate for women and children. I work at a place that has housing for women and children. We only have 8 rooms that are specifically available for women with kids, and 16 beds for women that don't have their kids. And there's very few programs in Whatcom County that have even the ability for somebody to a woman to bring their kids, and there's 0 for if a father were to have their kids, other than at base camp. There's for 6 rooms for where a father could have his kids. But outside of that, any kind of clean and sober environment, there's nothing available. And so having a woman go to treatment and be able to bring their child with them to treatment and have them at treatment, but have nowhere for them to go after is just setting them up for failure. And a big thing, like a big thing why people cycle through the jail so much is that they're waiting on housing or they're waiting on treatment. And so during that period of time, they're back on the streets and then, 9 times out of 10 or almost 10 times out of 10, they're going to end up getting loaded again because they don't have the support or the resources for them to be able to stay clean and sober. And then mental health and reentry are the other 2 that I wrote down. I know that we're definitely getting better. I'd say we're better than we were when I first got clean and sober. And at the rapid rate of addiction with fentanyl now is like, I don't know that we would ever be able to fix the problem completely. But from what I see, the mental health issue, and from what I see at where I work is that there's a lot of room for improvement in that. And I wanted to second what Caesar said about the accountability piece, because with the rise in addiction, with all the fentanyl and people getting tickets but not actually getting arrested, that really played a big part in why I got clean, is because I had the accountability. I had I was either going to go to prison for 5 years or go to treatment for 3 to 6 months. And I desperately wanted to go to treatment. And my public defender, I was loaded at the time that I was asking to do this. And he basically told me that I didn't stand a chance, that I would go through, treatment, and then I would end up having to go to prison still because I couldn't stay clean. And but getting the opportunity to do that and then having 2 years on DOC afterwards is, held me accountable to staying clean, and got me that amount of time off of drugs and alcohol to the point where I had, a solid recovery program that I was working, and didn't, and then at some point through that, my life changed, and drugs and alcohol were no longer, they were not my solution, and they weren't an option for me. But if I hadn't had that accountability, I'd been to treatment 5 times before that, and most of the time with no accountability afterwards, and didn't stay clean and sober. And so I think like that is a strong piece also in not just like right now. I feel like there's just so many people that are out there trying to survive, and as an addict in active addiction, you're like, my intentions today, the person that I am not on drugs, I would never steal from my family or steal from a store or intentionally hurt anybody. But in addiction, there is none of that. Like, it is one thing and one thing only, and that's that I don't want to be dope sick, and I'm gonna do whatever I can to make that happen. And if somebody gets in the way of that, then it's my values and integrity are non-existent, because that's my focus. And I'm gonna do whatever I have to do to not be sick. And that's the reality of what is out there. And that there's so many people just trying to survive every day, just to get through the day. And so ignoring that and not having any kind of consequences for that is not helping them. Like, as I still remember the feeling that I had when I got arrested and turned around and the police were behind me with their guns drawn, and like, I knew three things. Like, I was, oh shit, I'm screwed, I'm gonna be sick, and like, sense of relief that it was over. And thankfully, by the grace of God, it worked out for me in being able to go to treatment and live in a clean and sober house and get a job when I was ready to start working, and build a recovery foundation for myself. But I see so many people that aren't that lucky, and they just they have nowhere to go, and they don't know the resources, and they don't know how to get what they need. And sometimes they don't even know what they need. They just need help. But there's just so many of them that there's not enough help. But that's really what I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Kara. Mike, do you have additional insights about what gaps or current operations are contributing to reincarceration?
I was really impressed by what Caesar had to say. If he was one of 7 people that went through that whole program, how many people tried to do it? I mean, both he and the lady who just got done talking, they had an internal change where they really wanted to make these programs work. I don't see that happening yet with my son. I hope that it will. He has a tremendous potential. He loves music. He loves art. He's super smart. He's probably too smart, and that's part of his problem. But um, how he's going to transition from how he views reality now into having a dream or a goal for his future is the only hope I can see for him. So that becomes my hope too, that somehow he can find a way that he can, have a future that it'll be his dream and he can make it happen. And I'm sure it's extremely difficult when you're strung out. I've been strung out a long time ago when I got back from Vietnam. And I know what that's like when you wake up and the first thought is how you're going to get high that day. And anyway, I mean, I replaced that with a whole different direction in life. But it's pretty hard to get inside somebody's head and make that happen.
Thank you, Mike. Linda?
Well, yeah, I really appreciate, especially those of you sharing your experience and how you got clean, and how incredible, how strong you are for doing that. I really appreciate hearing your experiences. It really gives me a lot of hope. I just wanted to add that, at one point in the last year, Brian agreed to, I shouldn't say his name. He agreed to go to detox, but they were full. And So I think I saw one of your things that expanding the detox center is a really great idea because they would only take him if it was voluntary. And, to get a rare moment where where he made that determination that he would go, and then there was no place to take him. It was very disheartening. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Jade?
I guess I'll just start at the street level. One thing that I've seen happen, and in my personal experience, when we had a woman who was under duress, going through mental health stuff, she was knocking on our door, and she was saying that it was her apartment, and she didn't know why she couldn't come in to her own apartment, and I kept telling her.
Jade, your sound sort of suddenly got really quiet. Like it was quiet and then it was full and then it got really quiet again.
Is that better?
Yes, perfect. Thank you. Great.
Okay, I muted and unmuted to see if that would work.
It worked. Right on.
Good. So the woman was at my door. She thought it was her apartment. I kept explaining that we had lived there for a few years, and she was convinced. And she was just hanging out outside her apartment. And I wasn't really worried about her damaging anything, but I wanted her to get help. And so we called the police, and an hour later, nobody showed up. She was still out there sitting on the curb. And then I called the police again. Still, another hour and a half goes by, no response. So I called the police again. It took 4.5 hours before the police responded. By then, she had dumped out all of her stuff, had half her clothes off. And so I think that's addressing mental health, and getting to those people when they need it and having a place for them to go. The triage center is great. One central at the hospital. But it's like what Kara was saying, like there's or I think Mike was saying it actually, or Linda, sorry. The bed availability, right? Like we don't have availability for a lot of people, and I've experienced that as well. Like I went to the detox and tried to get in. There was no beds. I had family members calling for me, no beds, and they called for 3 weeks, no beds. I actually had to go detox all the way down in Everett. And like a lot of people, they don't have availability to get to other places. Also, when you call the detox, they set a time for you. They'll say, okay, can you come by at 2:00 in the afternoon? Okay, well, how is somebody in Lummi or behind Walmart in Ferndale, while they're under the influence? It's like Caesar said, there's that time where you're waking up in the morning, you're sick, maybe you want it, maybe you want to go to detox, right? And then somebody comes by and they give you that substance, right? I wish there was a way to get people from the time they call detox to just get them somewhere safe, at least, like a holding area or something. Just and rides, if we could get people rides, so they didn't have to think about, well, how am I going to get across town? Who can I call? Will this person be there for me? And then there's, like I said, the beds in itself. And then once you get there, they usually give you about 15 minutes. So if you're past that 15 minutes, then they'll give up your bed. And that's only because of the bed availability, right? So they want to keep things flowing, so they have to give the bed up to somebody else. And I was when I was turning myself into detox the last time, there was a girl that was going in front of me, and they said that she had gone 2 hours past her time. And she was out in the middle of the street screaming, "I'm going to die. If I go back out to use, I'm going to die. I wish they would have let me in." And then I got to get in, and I as I'm sitting there in the detox, I'm thinking about this girl who was suffering, and it's just horrible. And then there's the gap between, so like, I understand that society wants to clean up our streets. They don't want people living behind Winco, behind Walmart, so they send in people to clean that up. But what happens is now we've created this like almost military presence, right? So all these people on the streets, they know that these police, or I should say, they think that the police are out to get them. And it's like, they're just trying to take away my home, because a lot of these people in their tents, that's their home. I've met people that have lived on the street for 20 years, and they're being shifted all over town. They can't get comfortable, and it's a horrible existence in itself to be homeless, but to have to, pack everything up in a shopping cart and then find a new place that might not be as safe as another place, because a lot of homeless people find safety in certain areas. And so now it's gotten to the point where, police come in, and now you created a resentment against the police. And so what that does is it drives a wedge in between addicts and society, because it's like, well, why would I want to get clean? This is what society does to me. They just want to lock me up. They just want to do this and that. And it's horrible to see that, because I know, society's not out to get me. When I was out there homeless, society wasn't out to get me. I did this to myself. But a lot of people, especially with mental health, they don't see it that way. And another thing is, the gap between when a person goes into like CCS, Lifeline, contact counseling, they get an assessment, and they're waiting on a bed day, right? And so what happens is like what's been said is, they have that moment where they want help, and then all of a sudden they can't get a bed date, or they're waiting on a bed date and they have nowhere to go. And that actually happened to me the last time I was in detox. I spent 3 days there, and they told me, well, I don't think that we're going to be able to get you a bed date. And I left detox early, because what was the point of me staying there? Because I knew that if I went back to the street after 5 days, I was going to get high. So why would I stay there for an extra 2 days when I can go back to the street and get high? There was no point in continuing going through my withdrawal just to go back to what I was doing. And then there's the aspect of, getting released from treatment. I've known a few people who have gone from, usually what happens is we get shipped off on a bus. We'll go to treatment in Spokane, Yakima, Chehalis, one of those places. We ride a Greyhound. We come back on the Greyhound. Okay, some of those Greyhounds get back at 10:30 at night, and they're downtown at the Amtrak. Well, how is a person supposed to just make it off of a bus down there to a clean and sober house, or to a safe place in general? And so there's so many different gaps, and so many different areas that the county could be working on. And as far as the work, I mean, like, I would love to see, not only, like, we have this work center that was built. People like me don't call it a work center. We call it the new jail, because you just get moved from the old jail to the new jail. You're not offered work. Maybe 10% of people there are working. And I know that when that was initially proposed, it was proposed as a work center, not a new jail. I know COVID's had an impact on that, but I would like to see more people that are incarcerated get the opportunity to work, and I would like to see, you know, some kind of programming where I don't know if the county could work with Labor Max or Express or some kind of temp agency, or maybe employers could talk to the county and just say, hey, if you know of a guy who's getting out and wants work, I will hire him. Or even if it's part-time, I mean, that little bit of work gives a person that time to get outside of their head. And that's very important in early recovery. So, yeah, I mean, altogether, I would just like, I think that I would like to say thank you to everybody who's like from Pioneer. I've been through PCN 7 times. And I've been to the Wacom Detox 34 times. I couldn't have done it without the resources, right? But the thing is there's all those gaps. So I don't think it's so much about like building more research, building more places. I think the detox could use more beds, but I think the primary focus should be looking at those gaps, because it's all about. One person said in a meeting the other day, they said you have 20 seconds from the time that you decide to use to trying to change your own mind. And when an addict's in their own head, the likelihood of them deciding not to use is very slim. And so if there's anything that anybody can do, is trying to get away from that, right? And I think that, you know, by filling those areas where it's like, you know, you don't have to be the one to walk from the Amtrak. You don't have to be the one to try to find a ride all the way from Lummi to the detox, or from Ferndale to the detox. That would be very helpful. And then also one other thing is that Narcotics Anonymous has, you know, we're taking meetings into the work center, new jail, but we're not allowed to go into the old jail. And another thing is that, you know, like we're not really supposed to give our phone numbers out, and it would be good to see some kind of programs where a person who's in jail and hears something, like some kind of a mentorship, you know what I mean? Where it's like, okay, you know what? I would like to hear from somebody who's changed their life. You know, I'm at that point where, you know, I'm really deciding whether treatment would work for me. I don't know what to do, but maybe there's somebody I could talk to. If they could just have that 5-minute phone call with somebody who's changed their life, that could be the turning point. Because I've seen a lot of people just change like that. And yeah, I think that's pretty much all I got. Thanks again.
Thank you so much. Hey, Hannah.
We're on time.
Hey, Hannah. I just noticed that we have another panelist who joined a bit ago.
Oh, wonderful.
I was wondering we could maybe, because Jay just set us up so beautifully in that last question about solutions. So I was just thinking maybe we don't have the reflections now from the JPOP and come back to that at our next meeting. So if people, we can hear from everybody. What do you think?
I think that's a great idea.
Okay. So Cheryl, did you want to jump in? We've just been sharing our story a little bit for a minute or two, and then we're moving on to this question right here. If I can share screen, where is it? I'll just say it out loud. The question is really about what are your ideas for changes in the system that could reduce reincarceration? And we've been talking about the gaps in the system, and then we're talking about like what could change. So maybe if you wanted to share some thoughts, and then anybody else who wanted to chime in. How's that sound? Okay, Cheryl, do you want to share some thoughts there? Oh, do we lose her? Cheryl, are you still there? Yeah.
She just has her audio and video off.
Okay, I'm gonna ask to unmute.
Sorry, I was trying to mute. I am Cheryl Whitehall. I apologize for being late. There were some good things that have been said, and there's a lot of things that, you know, people have hit right on it now. I have been incarcerated many of times. I was a revolving door. I have a daughter that just got a 10-year sentence, who had been in and out of the justice system, and still is just incarcerated, starting at the age of 13. I have another daughter that she was listed. And I have another daughter that is in active addiction and that is homeless, and you know, just for me, I haven't been incarcerated for about 10 years now. The only reason that is because I have made a choice to change my life. But it wasn't that easy just to wake up one day and say, when I was incarcerated, you know, we got up, we ate, we showered, we got fought, we wrote a letter, we went back to bed.
Hey, Cheryl. Cheryl, the sound is coming in and out. Is there anything we really want to hear you, and I can hear a lot of it, but it keeps on kind of cutting out. Is there anything you can do to, I don't know if you're on a mic or a speaker or something, anything you can do to shift that?
Can you hear me better now?
Yeah, awesome.
Okay, I'll speak up because sometimes I start speaking up and then I go down. So that happens.
Yeah,
so,
speak up. Yeah, perfect.
One of the things that that would have helped me and when I was incarcerated is to be able to have things that like mental health counseling, like maybe one-on-one, because there was times I spent months in jail. And, you know, we got to go to church services, but we didn't have any other kind of services. And that's part of what I see also with like my children, you know, some of the things that us addicts deal with go deeper than this picking up the substance. It's the underlying issue. And for us to actually get to look at that underlying issue, we need that outside help to help us identify those underlying issues. You know, and so if it was offered, you know, that they could go and get that while they're incarcerated, especially if you're sitting there for months on end, you know, you start working on yourself, you start feeling better. So then when you're released, you're going to have a better opportunity to go and get the extra help. But with that said, there also needs to be something that's in place where they are able to go and they don't have to wait, you know, blinks of time. That's the other part. You know, you get out. Well, for me, I got out and I had the mindset I was not going to use. I was not going to use. And then the next thing that happened, I ended up using because I didn't know how to live life on life's terms. You know, and that's one of those things that I see with my daughters, you know, the availability, it's been talked about the availability of detox beds, the availability of getting into treatment. You know, if you're sitting incarcerated for up to 6 to 8 months, or you're waiting to go into on your trial dates, if you're able to even start treatment in the facility that you're sitting in, yeah, it's good for us to be able to take in meetings, and that's a big one right there, to have the meetings, all the A's available for any of these places. It helps tremendously. But to be able to start working with a treatment program is detrimental. I watch my daughter go in and at my oldest daughter, the one that got 10 years, go in and out, in and out, in and out. And it was just insane to me as her mother, when she was younger, to stand in front of the judge and ask for help and tell the judge, I need this help, and not being able to get it because don't you know, she's 13 and she can say that she wants it or she doesn't want it, but probation can put it on her to have it. And that's crazy to me. But her mental healthness, that was the other part of looking at. She would go to jail, she would get regulated on her mental health medication, and then she would get out, and then she wouldn't be able to get her mental health medication, and then we were in another cycle again. And yeah, she has that responsibility to be, self-disciplining and responsible, but it's hard when you're in your active addiction to be self-disciplining. So before we let them out the door, equip them, have somebody come up alongside of them, help them set up services where we can they are able to go and get that help. They know where to go and get that help. If they don't have medical coverage, have DSHS come in and help them get that medical coverage before they step the foot out the door. The housing, my daughter that's homeless denied because has to treatment able to get into housing, to be able to get stable, to be able to have reunification with her daughter. And that at this one place that they were going to for housing that she came up on, that's what they told her. And she's like, don't they understand that treatment isn't an overnight thing? It takes a while. For me, it took 3 years of doing it outpatient, and she's waiting on trying to get into a place down in Centralia, and she's been talking about this. And she went over the other day to get her evaluation. She went and sat there, and don't you know, she sat there for a couple hours, she said, and she got turned down because they're like, well, we're not taking any more walk-in. And for
Cheryl, we just lost your sound. Because I think it ended with they weren't taking any more walk-ins, and then it was quiet, silent.
Yes. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. So she did the paperwork and she was going to go back. And, as her mom, I just pray she does get up and go. But like somebody said, when you're sick and you are just wanting to not be sick, number one on your plate is getting well. And you know, I don't, I know that I sit with many of these people that are on here today, and I absolutely admire them because we each know the struggle it takes. And I don't really know what the answer is. There is a lot of gaps, and there needs to be some solutions. And clean kits and that's not the solution. Anyway, that's it for me. I gotta drop my granddaughter off here to next week, so and I'll stay on, but I gotta drop her off. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we've got just 2 minutes here. I can see my screen before we need to move into the public comment period. So Hannah, I'll turn it back to you. How would you like to kind of wrap us up here?
Yeah, I think just wanted to ask anybody if they had any other specific ideas of solutions to some of these gaps and things that are missing in the services. You guys have shared a lot of really wonderful ideas so far, and we really appreciate your insight. But if you have any additional comments or things that you would like to second based on what other people have shared, that would be, we'd love to hear that. It'd be great.
I'd like to share one thing. My brother's grandson was incarcerated for 5 years for armed robbery. And during that time, he started out tattooing himself and he got really good at it. And now he's out. He lives in the Bay Area, but he has his own tattoo shop now and he's really successful with it. So it's interesting to me that he discovered that when he was incarcerated, he had nowhere to go and he only had himself to work on. And he was showing me his tattoos, and they're really terrific. So he develops like his own future in a way. He found something that worked for him and is still working for him. So it caused me to think while people are incarcerated, generally they're not on drugs. They can't get drugs when they're in prison, theoretically. And it would be a good time to try and help them find out what sort of field or future they would be interested in and then help them get educated in that direction so that they could continue that when the incarceration ends.
Thank you so much. Okay, well, I just
Caesar has his hand up.
Okay, Caesar, go ahead. Thanks, I didn't see it. Caesar, did you want to go ahead?
Yeah, sorry, I was trying to unmute it.
Go ahead.
So to me, the biggest thing is there's no such thing as a perfect system. People are going to fall through the cracks, and we all need to understand that. And it doesn't matter what system is in place, someone's going to fall through the cracks. Someone's going to feel like they've been let down, and that's the unfortunate reality. If nothing else, what needs to happen is because Bellingham or Whatcom County in a whole has a ton of programs for a lot of different things. Now, what needs to be looked at is some of the programs that aren't so successful. Maybe those funds need to get reallocated to the ones that are. So detox needing more beds, take the funds from whatever is not doing well and reallocate, shut that program down, reallocate it to detox and go that route. Instead of asking more money and a new program, take the money that is already there, reallocate it to something that's doing well and into something and take it from something that's not. Unfortunately, that is the name of the game because you cannot help everybody. Not every single person that's going to show up to a rehab center is going to get let in, and they are going to get let down. They're going to say we don't have enough beds, or you are too late, or this and that. It doesn't matter. There's a plethora of reasons, and it may sound harsh, but it's the reality. And the other aspect of things is we do need to kind of figure out on involuntary committals, because this is the thing. As much as somebody wants to believe that we are giving some of this free will to the people, and it's inhumane to put somebody in jail or in a mental institution or into rehab against their will, why is that considered inhumane? But to let them live out in the streets, in the cold, in the rain, getting assaulted, doing drugs, and living in these not well conditions, because it's not like they have running plumbing and water and all these kind of things. They're not taking care of themselves. They have, body conditions and all these different things. How is that considered humane, and yet not getting somebody into the help that they need, possibly against their will, for the greater good on the outcome of them, let alone society, not the route of not seeing that as the most humane thing that we can do? I guarantee you a lot of people are not going to see my views as they're not the soft way to go, but sometimes you have to do things in order to help the greater good, and even if it is yourself. So that's just my 2 cents.
Thank you so much. Okay, so in honoring the period for public comment, I just want to pause here and see, is there anybody from the public who's not part of the JPOP who would like to comment at this time? Okay. So hearing none, that gives us a few more minutes to see if any of our panelists who haven't spoken yet, do you want to have a couple of closing words? And then any other members of the JPOP who would like to do some closing comments? And Hannah, do you want to, I think it'd be great if you wanted to just also just do some reflections here, because you've done such a beautiful job with the moderation.
Yeah, thank you, Holly. And thank you all of the panelists for sharing your insights and your experiences. It's been really wonderful to hear from you and to reflect back kind of what we've been discussing as the JPOP committee over the past almost year. We really appreciate everything that you've had to say, and we really want to let you know that we hear you, and we're doing everything possible to make sure that the needs of the community are being met. And sounds like there's a lot of good stuff that has happened in the community over the past 15-20 years, and but there's still a lot of gaps and a lot of things that we can work on, and that's the point of the Justice Project. So we, on behalf of the IPRTF and the Justice Project, are here to support however we can. So thank you very much again.
Thanks. Rosa?
Yeah, so I serve on the task force committee, so I've been on for a year. Everyone on the JPOP and task force knows I'm formerly incarcerated. I am a felon, and that was in the early 2000s. And after it was a one-time deal, so I only went in one time, and I learned I didn't like it, right? So there's, I became a scientist, right? And I think what I want to talk, the reason why I mentioned that is because I want to reflect on what Mike said, is Monroe, I think it was Monroe or Wenatchee Prison, I work at a tribal place, and they asked people like, hey, we have a lot of indigenous incarcerated people. Is there people here that can mentor or whatever, right? I raised my hand, right? Because I'm formally, and I was told no. Because why? I'm a convicted felon, right? So that's a issue we should that needs to be at whatever table it needs to be in, right? So because right now I am a teacher at a college, I do research, I mentor, I've worked in DC, so very passionate about. I went through the system, and I had a very supportive family, and it was very difficult with the very supportive family to graduate, to go through the probation and the parole, right? So I just want to mention that, like, I think I am a good role model, and I can speak the language. It's two different languages. It really is. And I was like, before I went to prison, I was at the new jail. The work, as Jade was saying, all I did was pick up garbage till I went to prison. You know what I mean? Like, didn't learn anything new. So I took a lot of notes. So the next time we have our meetings and stuff, there's definitely stuff we will hopefully I'll bring up. Thank you.
Nice. Thank you so much, Rosa. And for you and others who helped bring these amazing panelists here with us today, thank you so much. And for all of our panelists, that was just phenomenal. Yeah, we'll have a lot more to talk about at our next meeting. So I'm going to put up this slide just to remind everybody of what we got going next. And I do suggest that if there's questions that, or ideas that came up for you during this whole conversation, that you jot them down, because there was so much important content here. And we've got a full month here before our next conversation. So September 18th, 2 to 4. Further reflections on today's panel discussion, especially because we didn't, seemed much more valuable to hear from our panelists today. So we spent more time for that. So we want to make sure that everybody gets to really have a chance to talk about what they heard and what it means. Then we'll also be wanting to be planning the next stakeholder panel discussion for October 16th. So we're thinking we want to do another kind of refine our question or questions, and we have more people who would like to come to speak with us. And then we'll also get an update from Finance and Facility Advisory Board or the STV updates on the Jail and Behavioral Care Center and any other updates that we need to do. So that's the plan for our next meeting on September 18th. And everybody, thank you so much for being here today.
I wanted to add one.
Yeah.
I want to add my thanks also. My computer managed to die, so that's why I'm here. But anyway, thank you so much for being here. And I want you to know that you are most welcome to attend any JPOP meeting, and we would love to have you.
Yeah. So for all our panelists, that was an invitation to you. And any guests here today, we really appreciate you being here. Anything else?
No.
Okay.
That
And
was
to
it.
our co-chairs, thank you, and everybody who helped out. And have a lovely rest of your afternoon. The meeting is adjourned. Should we?